She wasn't crying. She was making this sound, like a wounded animal almost, but softer, barely there. And I knew we'd found her. My name's Tom Weaver. I'm 67 now, been retired a little over 9 years. I live just outside Missoula, Montana. Quiet spot. Bit of land, some trees, enough space to breathe. That's all I ever wanted, really. I worked as a wilderness paramedic for 32 years. Most of it up in northwest Montana. Flathead County, Glacier, Bitterroots. Anywhere they needed me. You know the type of calls we got. Lost hikers, broken bones, bear encounters. Sometimes worse. But it was never just the injuries. It was the places. The silence. The cold that got in your teeth. Wilderness don't care if you're hurting. Don't care if you're scared. She just keeps going. I wasn't some city medic with sirens and bright lights. Out there it was me, a backpack, a radio, if it worked, and my boots. Sometimes a team, sometimes alone. You learned quick how to listen. To the wind, to your gut, and to people. Folks in panic don't speak normal. They ramble, or they don't say a damn word. You learn to read a man's face better than his words. That skill kept me alive more than once. I didn't plan on this line of work. I was a forest ranger first in my 20s. Then one day, I helped pull a boy out of a river. His dad was screaming, frozen on the shore. I did what I could. He made it. And something in me shifted after that. Like I'd been handed a job I didn't ask for, but couldn't ignore. So I went to paramedic school, got wilderness certified, and once I started, I never looked back. Didn't marry. Not really. Had a couple long things that ended quiet. Hard to keep someone when your life is hiking into danger with strangers. But I don't regret it. I mean, I saw things most folks never do. Sunrises over glacier that made you forget the night before. The way fog lifts off a river at dawn, or the look in someone's eyes when they realize they're gonna live. But yeah, I saw the dark too. Dead kids, frozen campers, suicide in the pines. I held a man's hand as he bled out after falling 20 feet on ice. He just looked up at the sky like he was trying to find something up there. And I sat with him. 'Cause no one deserves to die alone out there. People always ask what call hit me the hardest. They want some story they can understand. But thing is, most of it doesn't make for good stories. It's messy, scattered, quiet. But there was this one time. The one I'm about to tell. I think about it more than I should. Not because of the blood or the danger, but because of a sound. You'd think, after all the things I've seen, fires, drownings, broken bodies, it'd be a scream that stuck with me, or a cry. But no, it was this tiny little sound from a girl not even 7 years old, found her deep in the Rockies. And that noise she made when I picked her up, it's still in my bones. You see, people think trauma is the explosion, the car crash, the scream. But for me, it was the quiet afterward. It was realizing just how much a human soul can break and still keep breathing. Even now, I don't talk about it much. Took me years just to say her name out loud. But I guess if someone out there's listening, maybe it's time. Back then, my life was pretty simple, if you don't count the chaos. I'd get up before the sun, coffee already halfway brewed from the timer. I didn't need much. Boots, pack, radio, keys. I kept everything ready by the door, always. When the call came, I had 5 minutes to be out. I worked out of Flathead Search and Rescue most of the time. We were a mixed bunch. Deputies, medics, volunteers, Forest Service guys, a lot of good folks. Some young, wide-eyed, and thinking this was just adventure. Some like me, quiet, burned through, steady. Calls came through dispatch, but half the time it started with a local walking into the ranger station saying, "Hey, I think someone's missing." Could be a hiker overdue by 6 hours. Could be a kid wandered off from camp. Could be some guy thought he could solo glacier with a bottle of Gatorade and no map. It was never the same. But what was the same was the feeling, that moment when you grab your gear and head out, not knowing if you're bringing someone home or bringing back a body. That wait, it never changes. Most days the calls were manageable. Twisted ankles, lost GPS signals, bear scares. We'd find them by dusk, wrap it up, maybe even grab a beer if the timing was right. But other days, yeah. Some days you knew it was going to get dark before it got better. See, wilderness don't play by city rules. No street lights, no backup 5 minutes away. You get weather turning fast, visibility dropping, terrain that shifts under your feet. Add a radio that only works if you hold it just right on top of a ridge, and now you're flying half blind. I remember one stretch, 3 calls in 5 days. One was a teenager fell from a waterfall. One was a hunter who broke his leg and tried to crawl back for 2 days. And one was a body. That last one we only found because a raven kept circling a clearing. You learn to pay attention to things like that. In this line of work, you don't just use your eyes, you use your ears, your nose, hell, your skin. You learn what silence means. And out there, silence can mean peace, but it can also mean death. My days were long, not in hours, but in weight. You hike with a pack, but you carry more than rope and gauze. You carry fear, theirs, yours. You carry time like a ticking in your chest. And when you find someone, you carry the result. Joy, grief, relief, regret. And then you go home. That part's harder than people think. You walk back into your cabin, kick your boots off, and there's nobody waiting. Just the hum of the fridge, the creak of old floorboards. You sit on the edge of the bed and try to put it all somewhere. But there's nowhere, really. So it piles up. I never kept trophies. Some guys did. Patches, photos, little reminders. Me? I tried to forget. But the thing is, the ones you want to forget, they stay. I had a rhythm to the job. Every week or two I'd hike trails solo. Not for fun, to remember what it feels like out there. What they feel when they're lost. When it's just you and the pines and every direction looks the same. There's a loneliness in the forest that gets in your bones. And if you don't respect it, it'll break you. You start to think differently too. When you see someone walk into the woods without enough water, or dragging a kid who's clearly scared, you feel this heat rise up. You want to grab them and say, "Do you know what happens out there?" But you can't. So you watch and wait. And sometimes you get the call. I worked closely with a guy named Ray. Older than me back then. Vietnam vet. Quiet. Didn't smile much, but he was solid. We could go 5 hours on a trail without saying a word. And it worked. Ray used to say, every person you find is a maybe. Maybe they're alive, maybe they're not. You treat them like they're breathing till they ain't. That stuck with me. We had codes and routines, but most of it, you figured it out on the ground. You looked at broken branches. You noticed a sock caught on a bush. You picked up on the way a bird suddenly stopped singing. I remember one search for a missing boy, 11 years old. Took us 18 hours to find him. He'd crawled under a fallen tree to stay warm. When I pulled him out, he said, "I thought nobody'd find me." I told him, "We always look, we don't stop." I meant it. Even when hope felt thin, we didn't stop. Because sometimes it's not just about saving them. It's about being the one person who shows up when the world feels gone. The girl I'm going to tell you about. She wasn't our first missing child case. We'd done plenty, but there was something about this one. The cold, the remoteness, the time she'd been gone, and the silence. There was too much of it. That week, I remember feeling tired. Not just physically, bone tired. It was late spring. Snow still on the ground in patches. Mud everywhere else. We'd had 3 calls that month already, and then this one came in. Family hiking near Bowman Lake, lost track of the daughter, 6 years old. The moment I heard it, I felt something shift in my gut. That click you get when you just know this ain't gonna be routine. We packed up, drove north, then hiked in. Teams split off, some with dogs. I remember the wind was sharp that day, carried sounds away from you. I took a section uphill, dense trees, quiet. Just me, a compass, and a sinking feeling. What came next? Well, I'll get to that, but that was the rhythm of my life back then. You don't punch a clock. You don't always come back the same. You carry it, every time. It was a Tuesday, I remember that. Don't ask me why that sticks, but it does. Maybe because Tuesdays weren't usually heavy days. Mondays, sure. People come back from the weekend, things go sideways. Fridays, yeah, rushing out, making mistakes. But Tuesdays were quiet. I'd just come off a 48-hour rotation, slept maybe 5 hours total, was home sitting on the porch, coffee in hand, boots off, dog at my feet. That was my idea of peace. Then the phone rang. Not the radio, the landline. That alone told me it was serious. It was Kathy from dispatch. She didn't say much, never did when it was bad. Just said, "We got a little girl missing up near Bowman. Parents reported her about 30 minutes ago. Park rangers already on site. You up for it?" I didn't even answer, just said, "Be there in 20. Grabbed my bag, threw on a dry shirt. By the time I hit the road, the coffee was still warm in the cup holder, and I never touched it. Driving up there. It's beautiful country. But that day, the beauty felt wrong. Sky was overcast, not full-on storm, but heavy. Clouds thick and low like the mountains were holding their breath. I met the team at the trailhead. Couple rangers, 2 volunteers, 1 deputy. I knew most of them. Young crew, but solid. Everyone was moving fast, talking quiet. Nobody smiled. That's how you know. I walked over to the parents. Mom was sitting on a rock, head between her knees. Dad was pacing back and forth, wearing a red jacket like a damn target. He looked at me like I was supposed to fix it just by showing up. I asked the basics, what time they last saw her, what she was wearing, what kind of mood she was in that morning. The usual checklist, even though your gut's already doing its own math. She'd wandered off around noon, they said, chasing a squirrel or maybe just curious. They turned around and she was gone. That was at least 3 hours before they called. 3 hours in that terrain is a lifetime for a kid that small. They said she was wearing a pink jacket, fleece, jeans, sneakers, no water, no whistle, just gone. We split up fast, map out sectors, call in dog teams. Ray wasn't with us that day. He was out of state visiting family, so I was the most senior. I picked the north side of the ridge, harder climb, rougher terrain, but I had a feeling. Sometimes that's all you got. I hiked in fast, didn't feel the usual weight of the pack. Adrenaline does that. At some point, maybe an hour in, the radio started cutting out. Static. Wind. I found a spot to check in, but nobody answered. Not unusual. Frustrating as hell, but not unusual. I kept going. The forest up there. It's thick. You lose sight lines real fast. Takes effort to stay calm, focused. Every branch looks like it could be something. Every shadow plays tricks on you. After a while, you stop yelling their name. 1, to conserve breath. 2, because sometimes the silence tells you more. It had started to drizzle. Just enough to make everything slick. Boots losing grip. Pine needles clinging to your skin. I found a small footprint near a rock ledge. Real light. Could have been hers. Could have been from 2 days ago. Still, it gave me a direction. And then I saw something caught in a branch. A thread of pink. Not a lot, but enough. That's when things got quiet in my head. You go into a zone, not panic, not hope, just alert. I moved slow, eyes scanning, listening. That's when I first heard it. Wasn't a cry, wasn't a voice. It was this hum. Soft. Low. Almost like an animal in pain. But not quite. It made the hair stand up on my arms. I stopped, held my breath. Waited. Heard it again. Not loud, not clear, but real. I moved toward it, every step deliberate. Didn't want to startle her, didn't want to scare off what might be my only chance. I crested this little ridge, and there, tucked in between two downed trees, covered in wet leaves, was a shape. Tiny. Still. I called out softly, "Hey there, sweetheart, you okay?" No answer, but the humming got louder. She was curled up, knees to chest, face hidden in her jacket. Jacket was soaked, muddy. I crouched down. "Didn't touch her yet," said. "My name's Tom. I'm here to help. Your mom and dad are looking for you." She didn't lift her head, didn't even flinch, just kept making that sound. I put a hand on her back. She was ice cold, skin through the fleece, wet, chilled to the bone. She didn't resist, didn't move, just hummed. I wrapped her in my emergency blanket, held her against me, rocked her a little, called it in, though I wasn't sure the radio got through. Tried to keep my voice steady, but I'll be honest, I was shaking, not just from the cold, but from the sound. It wasn't a song, wasn't a cry, just something broken. Like her mind had latched onto a rhythm that made her feel not alone. I'd never heard anything like it, and I never have since. People think finding someone is the end of the job. But it's not. Sometimes it's just when it starts getting harder. After I found her, that little girl, humming like she wasn't even on the same planet, I had to make some quick decisions. She was alive. That was the miracle. But she was hypothermic. Bad. Skin pale. Lips blue. Could barely hold her own head up. She couldn't talk. Didn't say a single word. Just kept making that same sound. Over and over. I've seen shock before. Seen it in grown men. Seen it in war veterans, accident survivors, you name it. But this was something different. She was stuck in that sound. It was like the only thing keeping her anchored to her own body. I didn't have a stretcher, didn't have time to wait. So I did what I had to. I picked her up and started the long way back. I wrapped her as best I could with what I had in the pack, used my jacket too. She weighed next to nothing. Still carrying her over that terrain wasn't easy, and every step I took she kept humming, this soft, hollow. I don't even know how to describe it. Almost like a lullaby, but not gentle. It made my chest tighten. I kept thinking, what the hell did she go through out here? 3 nights alone, 6 years old, cold, wet animals all around, no food, no light, and still breathing. We were deep enough in that I knew I had to go uphill to get signal. So I climbed with her in my arms, slipping on roots and rocks. Fell once, caught myself before she hit anything. I finally hit a ridge and got enough signal to get a word through. Didn't even wait for them to answer fully. Just said, I got her, alive, hypothermic, need evac. And then I gave them my coordinates twice. It'd be a while before they reached us. I found a patch of flat ground, cleared it, and sat with her in my lap. I remember her eyes, wide open, looking past me, like I wasn't even there. I talked to her, told her everything was gonna be okay, told her I wasn't gonna leave her. Didn't matter what I said, she just kept humming. There's something that happens when you sit with someone that broken, your own voice starts to sound fake. You start wondering if you're saying things to help them or to help yourself. I checked her fingers. They were stiff. Bad circulation, but no frostbite yet. Lucky, considering the weather. Her sneakers were soaked through. One sock gone. No injuries that I could see. Just emptied out. When the helicopter finally showed up, I saw the shadow of it pass through the trees before I heard the blades. That's how dense it was up there. I flagged them down, popped a flare. Team came in fast, medic, 2 others. I handed her off. Didn't want to, if I'm being honest. I'd been holding her for over an hour. Felt like letting go would break her all over again. But I did. The medic gave me a look. Not a thank you. Just that look of someone who knows exactly what you just went through. They wrapped her up, strapped her in, and lifted her off. I stayed behind, not because I had to, because I needed a minute. You'd think I'd cry or something, but I didn't. Just sat down where she'd been and listened. And you know what? I could still hear the hum, even after she was gone, like it was stuck in my ears. It's funny. You go out into the wilderness to find people, and sometimes you lose a part of yourself instead. I hiked back, slow. Didn't talk to anyone on the way out. When I got to the trailhead, the dad was there. He ran up to me, arms wide, eyes wet. I told him she was alive. Told him she was in the air, heading to Kalispell Regional. He fell to his knees. I just stood there. Didn't know what to say. Sometimes the only thing you can say is nothing. Eventually I packed up and drove home. Didn't turn on the radio, didn't eat. Just sat in the truck outside my cabin with the engine off. That humming. I couldn't shake it. I don't know how a sound like that comes out of a child, and I don't know how it gets inside a grown man and stays there. I've been through a lot. Pulled people out of rivers, off cliffs, out of fires, seen death, seen survival. But that day, that little girl, that broke something in me I didn't even know could break. I've seen a lot of things out there. People torn up, broken, screaming for help. Seen guys try to act tough with bones sticking through skin. Seen kids cry for their mothers while I wrapped tourniquets around what was left of their legs. But that moment, when I found her, tucked between those trees, that hit different. She was so small, could have fit in a backpack. Just this tiny little bundle of pink and mud. She was wedged between two fallen trunks, half covered in wet leaves, like she'd curled up and the forest tried to swallow her. I remember how still she was. Didn't move when I got close. Didn't flinch when I said her name. Not that I knew it then, but I tried sweetheart, baby girl, even hey you. Nothing. But she was breathing, and she was humming. That sound. I'll never forget it. It wasn't music, wasn't even a tune. It was like her mind had grabbed onto this one thing and wouldn't let go. A low, broken hum, didn't rise, didn't fall, just stayed there, looping, like a motor running out of oil, like someone trying to keep themselves tethered to something real. I didn't touch her right away. Didn't want to scare her. I know better. I squatted down, talked low, told her who I was, told her her parents were worried, said we were going to get her out, nice and easy. She didn't blink, didn't cry, didn't look at me, just kept humming. I slowly reached out, touched her shoulder. She didn't pull away, but she didn't react either. Her jacket was soaked through, cold, not shivering, past that point. That's when I knew it was bad. When the body stops shivering, you're on borrowed time. I wrapped my emergency blanket around her, then slid my own jacket off and covered her again. She still didn't speak, didn't even look up. But she was alive. That's what I kept telling myself, she's alive. I called it in, gave my location, didn't know if the radio got through, but I had to try. Then I lifted her. That part, that's what comes back the most. She weighed nothing, no resistance. Her body just folded into mine like she was empty, like she'd given up being solid. And the sound, that hum, got louder when I picked her up. Like being touched triggered it stronger. Not louder like screaming, just more present, vibrated through me. I've never had anything go through my body like that. Felt like I was holding a speaker to my chest, playing grief at a frequency I couldn't handle. I tried talking again. Told her it was going to be all right. Told her she was safe now. No change. Just that hum. Like it was the only part of her left working. We started moving. I had to step slow. Ground was slick, and I didn't want to fall with her. She didn't grip me. Kids usually cling, wrap their arms around your neck, bury their face in your chest. Not her. Her arms just hung there. Dead weight. But she was breathing. I watched her face as I walked. Eyes were open, Not wide with fear, just blank, like she was watching something I couldn't see. Every time I shifted her in my arms, the sound changed slightly, got tighter, almost like pain. So I stopped moving her too much, held her steady, tight to my chest. I remember my breath fogging in front of me, and hers didn't. I checked, yes, she was breathing, just shallow. I don't know how far we walked. Felt like hours, might have been 40 minutes. But every second I carried her, I thought of all the kids we didn't find, the ones who didn't make it, the ones I zipped into black bags. And here she was, barely alive. But here, it messes with you. When the medevac team met us at the clearing, I didn't want to hand her over. I knew I had to. But part of me, I felt like she'd given me this one piece of her by letting me hold her, and if I passed her off, I'd drop it. Drop her. But I did it. The medic looked at her, then at me. Didn't ask questions. Just nodded. Wrapped her up. Got her in the chopper. She didn't cry once. Didn't speak. Didn't even flinch when the rotors kicked up dirt all around us. Just that hum. Even with the chopper door closed, I could still feel it in my chest. After they lifted off, I stood there, alone again, sweating, breathing hard, and shaking like hell. I sat down on a rock and put my head in my hands, not because I was tired, because I was overwhelmed. And I'm not the kind of guy who uses words like that. But that's what it was. Overwhelmed. By the silence that followed. By the weight of her in my arms. By the way she never looked at me. By the sound. It followed me home that night. Stayed in my truck the whole drive. Waited for me on the porch. Slept at the foot of my bed. Some things you leave out there. But that hum? It came with me. And I don't think it ever really left. After the chopper lifted off, I just stood there. I could still feel her weight in my arms. Not physical. She barely weighed anything. But the weight, that stayed. I'd handed her over, done what I was trained to do, but it didn't feel like relief, didn't feel like closure, just felt heavy. I started the hike back down the trail, slow. It wasn't that far, but my legs felt shot, not from distance, from tension, from holding it together the whole time. I don't remember much of the walk back, just trees, mud, wind. When I got to the trailhead, there were more people now. Sheriff, search volunteers, a reporter from Kalispell already sniffing around. The girl's mom was sitting in the back of a park vehicle, wrapped in a blanket. Dad was pacing again, same red jacket, soaked now. When he saw me, he ran. Didn't say anything at first, just grabbed me, hugged me like I was family. I didn't hug back. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how. He kept saying, "Thank you, thank you." Over and over. I nodded, said, "She's tough, real tough." That was all I could manage. He started crying, loud, bent over, hands on his knees. I looked away, not out of disrespect, just I didn't want to come apart. A deputy came over, asked if I was okay. I said I needed to sit. He pointed me toward the back of the truck. I climbed in, shut the tailgate behind me, and just sat. That's when it hit. Not all at once. Just this slow wave of realization. She'd lived. But whatever had happened to her in those woods, it was still happening inside her. I'd carried a child out of the forest, but I wasn't sure she'd ever really made it back. That messed me up. They offered me transport. I declined. Drove home alone like I always did. It was about an hour, maybe more with the rain. Road slick, wipers working overtime. Didn't play music, didn't call anyone, just silence and the hum. It was still in my head, not like a memory, like a presence. I kept trying to shake it, rolled down the window, turned on the heat. Didn't matter. When I got home, it was dark. I didn't take my boots off. Just sat at the kitchen table. Wet gear, dirty hands, blood pressure still high. I kept going over it. Every detail. How still she was. how cold, how that hum never stopped, not even for a second. I'd worked hundreds of calls, had plenty of close ones, but nothing like this. This one got inside me. That night I didn't sleep, just laid on the couch with a blanket and stared at the ceiling. I wasn't thinking about what could have happened, wasn't playing the what-if game. It wasn't guilt. It was something else, a kind of helplessness. Because I'd done everything right, found her, got her out, but still felt like I'd failed her somehow. I think it was the sound, that broken hum. It made her seem less like a person and more like, I don't even know, like she wasn't all the way here anymore. Next day, I called the hospital, asked about her condition. The nurse said she was stable, vitals normalizing. They'd gotten her warmed up. She was responsive, but not speaking. Still no words. Still humming. I asked if she'd seen a child psychologist yet. Nurse said they were arranging it, told me not to worry. But I did. Every day that week I checked in, same update, alive, breathing, not talking. I never visited. Didn't want to cross that line. I wasn't family, wasn't a friend, just the guy who found her. But she was in my head. I'd hear that hum while making coffee, while walking the trail behind my house, while brushing my teeth. I started checking doors twice, triple checking the stove, things I never used to do. That's how trauma shows up, not with tears, with loops. I didn't talk about it with anyone. Guys at the station asked how the call went. I gave them the short version. Found her, cold but alive. They clapped me on the back, told me hell of a job. I nodded, smiled a little, didn't say anything else. Didn't tell them about the hum. Didn't tell them I hadn't slept more than 3 hours in a row since that day. Didn't tell them I'd started walking the woods alone again. Not for training, not for peace, but hoping I'd hear it one more time. Just to understand. I didn't find peace, but I found silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. About a month later I got a letter. Typed, no return address, no signature, just said, she doesn't hum anymore. She still doesn't talk, but she smiles now. Thank you. I read it 10 times, still have it, somewhere in a drawer. It should have brought closure, but it didn't. Because I still remember the sound, and I still wonder what broke inside her to make that sound, and what broke inside me when I heard it. You don't walk away from something like that and just go back to normal. People think you do. They think you found her, she lived, must feel good. But it doesn't work that way. What stayed with me wasn't the rescue. It was what came after. I didn't sleep much for the first few weeks. I'd lie down and think maybe tonight I'll get 5 or 6 hours, but then I'd close my eyes and there it was again, that hum. Not loud, not like a dream, just there, in the room, in my head. Sometimes I'd get up in the middle of the night, open the back door and just step outside. No flashlight, just stood in the dark, listening. I wanted to hear anything but that sound. A coyote, an owl, hell, even the wind. Something to remind me where I was, to pull me back to the real world. But most nights, it was just me, and that silence that doesn't feel like peace. You know the kind. I kept working for a while, tried to keep the routine. Calls kept coming, people kept getting lost, getting hurt. But I was off my game. I'd hesitate more. Second-guess routes, lose track of time on the trail. One time I even walked past a sign-in log on a post, something I never did. That shook me. Ray noticed. Pulled me aside after a run and said, "You're still up there with her, huh?" I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. He just nodded and said, "I get it." He'd seen it before. Hell, he'd lived it. You don't spend 3 decades pulling broken people out of the woods and not lose a few pieces of yourself in the process. I took some time off after that. Told them I needed to recharge. Truth is, I was thinking of walking away altogether. But I didn't know what I'd be without it. I tried therapy once. VA had someone, local woman. She was kind, asked good questions. But when I tried to describe the sound, that hum, I couldn't get the words right. She said, "You mean like a tune?" I said no, it wasn't music, it was survival, but broken. She tilted her head like that meant something. Maybe it did to her, but not to me. I didn't go back. Instead, I started writing things down, just for myself. Little notes, fragments. She didn't cry. She didn't blink. What happens to a kid who hums instead of screams? That kind of thing. I've still got those notes in a box in the garage. Can't bring myself to throw them out. Feels wrong, like tossing out a part of her story. Time passed. Seasons changed. One fall afternoon I was cleaning gear in the garage, and the wind pushed the door open behind me. And for a split second I heard it. That hum. Clear as day. I froze. Turned around. Nothing there. No wind chimes, no engine, no animal. Just the sound in my memory, deciding to pay me a visit. That's the thing no one tells you. Trauma has its own clock. Doesn't care if you're busy, doesn't care if you're healed. It shows up when it wants. And when it does, it brings company. That weight in your chest, that film behind your eyes. You just go quiet and let it pass. After a while, I stopped trying to explain it to people. Even close friends. They'd ask about the job, and I'd give them the stories that had clean endings. Funny ones. Strange ones. But not this one. This one felt private. Like it didn't belong to just me. I wondered about her a lot. What she looked like as she grew up. If her voice came back. If she remembered anything about those days alone. But I never tried to find out. Never searched her name even after I learned it. Didn't want to intrude. Didn't want to risk seeing her face and knowing it didn't recognize me. That's the selfish part, maybe. I wanted to be important to her. But only in theory, so I kept it to myself. Eventually I retired, gave my last call report, turned in my radio, shook a few hands, went home and sat in the quiet. Didn't feel like an ending, just felt quieter. I got used to it. Started hiking again, just for me this time. No gear, no pressure. Just boots and water and the trail. But even then, certain things would bring it all back. The sound of wind through pine needles. The way fog moves in early morning. Pink jackets on little kids. Once I passed a family on the trail. Mom, dad, 2 kids. The younger girl had a fleece jacket, strawberry blonde hair. She ran ahead of her parents, laughing. I stopped walking, just stood there. She looked over at me and waved, smiled like I was just another harmless old man. And maybe I was. But for a second, I thought I saw her. That girl, older now, whole again. Of course it wasn't her, just looked enough like her to bring the weight back. I nodded to the parents, kept walking, didn't look back. You get good at that, keeping your feet moving when your head's a mess. That sound never left. It's quieter now, but it's part of me. I don't hear it every day. But when I do, I stop what I'm doing. I listen. Not because I want to, because I feel like I owe it. She survived, and that should be enough. But part of me still wants to go back to that day, back to the moment I found her, back to the second I heard that sound and knew, without a doubt, she was still alive. Because sometimes the closest I feel to being human is remembering how close she was to being lost. It's been over 9 years since that call, and I still think about her. Not every day, not like before, but she shows up, in the quiet, in the woods, in moments I don't expect her. I used to think it would fade, that over time, memories dull down to a manageable shape. Some do, but not this one. This one stayed sharp. I don't even remember her name half the time. Isn't that something? You carry someone inside you for almost a decade, but you forget the label. What I remember is the shape of her, the hum, the way her body folded into mine like she'd already left the rest of herself behind. I think about what that means. People like to ask what makes a man break. They think it's one big moment, Gunshot, explosion, scream. But for me, it was something small. A sound no louder than a whisper, and it broke me not all at once, but slow, like water dripping on stone. I didn't fall apart out there, didn't cry on the trail or lose my cool. I did the job. I got her out. But when it was over, there was this hollowness inside me, like I'd spent all I had keeping her alive, and now there was nothing left to hold myself together. I started noticing things. I'd walk into the grocery store and forget what I came for. I'd sit on the porch and lose track of time, just staring. Music didn't feel right anymore. Laughter from other people felt too loud. I pulled back from folks. Didn't mean to, just happened. I'd get invited to dinners, BBQs. I'd say yes, then cancel last minute, say I was tired, say I had chores. Truth is, I didn't want to be around anyone who didn't know what it was like to carry a child out of the forest, humming like her soul was broken in half. I couldn't explain it, so I stopped trying. There's a kind of loneliness that comes from not being able to share the one story that shaped you. Not because people won't listen, but because you know they can't understand. I've been told I should be proud, that I saved her life, and maybe I should be. But it doesn't feel like pride. It feels like debt, like I owe something I'll never be able to pay. I think that's what trauma does. It twists the narrative. Instead of I saved her, I hear, why was she out there in the first place? Instead of she made it, I hear, what did it cost her? I can't stop wondering what her life is like now. If she still hears the sound, if she dreams of trees and cold and being so alone she had to invent a noise just to stay real. And I wonder what part of me stayed with her that day. There are moments I feel it. Something missing in me. It's not dramatic, not loud, just a quiet absence. Like there's a room inside me that never got cleaned out after she left. People talk a lot about closure, like it's something you earn, like a paycheck, but I don't think that's how it works. I think some stories stay open, not bleeding, not infected, just open. And maybe they're supposed to. Maybe it's not about getting over it. Maybe it's about carrying it the right way. For a long time, I thought I had to forget the hum to move forward. But now I think, maybe remembering it is how I move forward. It's a reminder that the things we survive leave marks, that not all scars are on the skin, that being strong doesn't mean being untouched. I've had folks tell me I should write a book, share the story. Could help other people, they say. Maybe, but I'm not sure I've got answers, just pieces, feelings I still haven't fully made sense of. Sometimes I walk a trail near my house. No pack, no radio, just me and the woods. And when I stop to catch my breath, I'll listen. Not for animals, not for hikers, for her, for that hum. Not because I want to hear it, but because I want to be reminded that even in the darkest, coldest part of those mountains, a little girl found a way to keep herself alive. And that I was lucky enough to hear it. If you've made it this far, thank you. I don't talk about that day much. Not because I can't, but because I didn't think it mattered to anyone else. But maybe it does. Maybe you've got a sound that stayed with you too. A moment that didn't bleed, but still left a scar. Maybe it was something you saw or heard or felt, and it just never let go. If that's you, I want you to know you're not weak. You're not broken. You're just carrying something the rest of the world can't see. That hum, it's still with me, and maybe it always will be. But I've stopped fighting it. Now I just try to listen to what it taught me. We don't always get to fix things. Sometimes all we can do is be there, pick someone up, carry them through. And if you've ever done that, really done that, then you know. It's not the weight of the body that stays with you, it's the weight of the moment. So if you've carried something, I'd like to hear your story too. Comments are open.